What's going on, everyone? Of course, with journals, comics, and pop culture. It is Friday Night Live. Welcome. I had some things come up. I had to push the show back to a later time, but I was doing an early show anyways today. But my son was trying to catch the bus home. The bus got canceled, and I had to go get my son. So obviously, I needed to make sure that he was home safe before we get into it tonight. Thank you guys for being here. We have an awesome show. Now, while this show does have some awesome talking points, every talking point that we're going to discuss tonight is pulled from my Patreon Q&A for the month of September. So big thank you to all of my awesome Patreon members. This show is inspired by you guys. We're going to get into answering all of those Q&A questions as well tonight. We're also going to talk about some giveaways. I got a short stack of books right here. We're going to get into. I'm going to say what's up to some folks. We got X11. What is going on? Raising Elm. Shadow Rat. What's going on, Shadow Rat? And Ghost Junk. Brandon's here. It's been a minute, Brandon. I was supposed to go to work, but the belt on my truck I just have replaced broke. Oh my goodness. It was meant to be. You're supposed to be here hanging out. No, but Brandon, I do hope that you get that fixed. That sucks. I'm sorry. Bronze Age. What's going on, Bronze Age? Thanks for hopping over. I know you've had a busy day yourself already. P-Kill. What's up, P-Kill? L Green Machine. Chris Olsen's hanging out. So we got a nice group of folks already. Fat Dad's hanging out. Fresh off of NYCC. How was it? How was your Friday at the con? Lots of good stuff tonight. We're going to take a few minutes to talk about some channel updates, of course, talk about some giveaways. We're going to let some more folks get in. Fat Dad, we're going to have an awesome Friday night live stream with Fat Dad as a special guest in the near future. So guys, look out for that. Los, what's going on, man? Tony's here. Hey, I got to highlight Tony here. Tony Trombetta of EGS. Folks, if you are not aware, I shared the video to my community tab. Tony just did his video today on his channel, letting us know that the new cases are here. The new cases are here. Go check out that video. I'm so excited. My next step is the books that I have at EGS is getting them back in hand in those new cases and doing my review on them. I cannot wait to do that video. Comic Collector Geek, what's going on? Thanks for hanging out. Okay, so a few things. I want to get into these giveaways for my members. This Sunday, Comic Book Canon, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Very special guest, Danny Girl Comics. You guys don't want to miss this show. You don't want to miss this show. Comic Book Canon, our link is below. If you're not subscribed to us over there, please do so. We do awesome shows every week, every Sunday. We have 2 awesome segments that you all can participate in. Our Props or Flops segment, where we take your guys' submissions for books that you're looking to speculate on or invest on, and we break down the market for you and give it props or flops. And then, of course, we have our Fresh from the Comic Shop, where you guys can not only enter and get to have your submissions shown off on the show, but that segment is sponsored by EGS, and every month EGS gives away an awesome EGS slab to a winner picked by you guys, the community. So that's what's coming up this Sunday. Big shout out to Danny Girl Comics. We got some giveaways here that I want to talk about. Now, first and foremost, I do got to give a big shout out to my YouTube channel members. You know, you guys, it's only $1.99 to support a month, and it really helps me be able to continue to do what I do here on the channel. And I know it's not much out of your guys' pocket every month, but it helps me quite often. So that's why I do my YouTube channel member giveaways as much as I can. For the month of October, we are giving away this Marvel Walmart 3-pack with Thor #1. I do believe that's a variant. Is this a variant, guys? It doesn't have a barcode. So, and I do believe I have number 1, and I don't remember being at that cover, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Mike, what's going on, Mikey Hags? Dale, what's up, Dale? Aggressively relaxing, what's going on? So, we don't know what the other couple of books are in this. It's unopened. So this will be finding a new home to one of my YouTube channel members, Comic Journey. What's going on? So I'll be announcing that towards the end of the month. We'll put that right here. And of course, for my Patreon members, we have a 3-book lot here. We have in Arthur Adams, Eternals #1 variant. I absolutely love this variant. I don't have multiple copies. This is my only copy, and I want to keep it, but because I love the cover. I love the white border, but I'm trying to minimize my collection, guys. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give this away to some Patreon members. It is a variant, Comic Collector Geek. Thank you for confirming that. So we got this Arthur Adams variant right here. And we got Dark Ages #1. I do believe that's cover A. Yep. Dark Ages #1. This was a little bit of a hot book for a while. I haven't checked the market on it as of late. All right. And then we have a book that has cooled off. We know MCU spec, especially with the TV shows, but I think it's still an awesome minor key. It could come into play more in the MCU in the future with these characters, but it's a nice looking copy of West Coast Avengers #62, first full appearance of the Timekeepers. So we're throwing that in there as well. So this is for my Patreon members for the month of October. All you need to do is be a Patreon member at the closing of the month of October, and then I do the randomizer, and we will find a new home for these. What's going on, Simon? Simon was last month's Patreon member. Really cool story real quick, folks. Simon was my first ever Patreon member. When I set up Patreon, he was the first to subscribe. He hadn't ever won one of my giveaways for Patreon before, and he finally won one last month. And funny enough, his wife is a YouTube channel member, and she won the YouTube member giveaway as well. And I swear I did it just the way it worked. I didn't make that happen. But I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, well deserved. Now, one more giveaway to talk about, folks, before we get into the discussions that we're going to have tonight. This is an amazing, beautiful, beautiful book. I haven't checked the value on this in a while, but I really don't care just because it's just so freaking beautiful. This is going to be my end of the year Patreon only giveaway. I'm going to have another YouTube giveaway for the end of the year too, YouTube member giveaway, but this is Venom #29, Gabriel Del Otto, variant from Scorpion Comics. This is the origin of Codex, but look at this cover art. Look at that. I was thinking about sending it in. I don't see why this book wouldn't get a 9.8. I was thinking about sending it into CGC and giving it away as a slab, but I didn't have it sent out, and I didn't want to have to wait for it and not get it back in time for my end of the year giveaway. I had it sitting. I should have did it a long time ago, but my CGC submission has been sitting for many months just because of all the drama that's been going on, even though they renewed my auto renewal. I just haven't sent my books in, and I've been not feeling it. But still, nonetheless, whoever wins this can definitely still send it to CGC. But this is, you get the Scorpion Comics card right there stating 221 out of 1,500. Trade variant, limited to 1,500 copies. And let's look at this thing again. This is just beautiful. And just the way that the light pops off. Man, imagine this. I mean, CG Seed or CBCS, but I'll tell you what, guys. I'll tell you what. Imagine this in a brand new proprietary custom EGS new case with a nice, like, black, just a crisp custom black label. Like, oh my goodness, with maybe like some type of Venom something on it. But that would be nice too. Or it might even look good in a Crafty Comics frame. That would be nice as well. But this is going to be the end of the year giveaway. I might throw in a few more books with it just to, you know, add to the pile for sure, for sure. Uh-oh. What's going on in the chat? Oh, man, I don't know what you guys... Oh, we're talking about blue wrenches? What you guys talking about, blue wrenches? All right, folks. Let's get into it. Let's just talk about it. We got a bunch of Patreon questions that have brought up some good topics this month. So, without further talk, we're going to get into some of these right now. All right. The first big piece that I took from these questions from my Patreon members was talking about Mega Grails. We're going to talk about that. Peter Thornton, awesome friend of the channel, who Peter lives in Canada, and I've been slacking on getting a prize out to him that he won like a few months ago. So Peter, if you're here, don't hate me. I promise you it's coming to you. But Peter asks, outside of the big 2 books for Spider-Man, what are your other Mega Grails that you dream about? So, look, I think when I want to answer this question straight up, Johnny Sanchez, what's going on? But I also want to add some context for you guys as collectors when we talk about Mega Grails. When I think of Mega Grail, I can look at it 2 different ways. We can mean Mega Grail as in mega in terms of the big bucks, the AF-15s. You know, the Spider-Man #1s, even going back to the Golden Age, to the Bronze Age #1s, the Action Comics #1, #1s, the Detective Comics number 42 or 42s or whatever, or 24. These are the industry's mega keys. For me, I might look at it differently because a mega key for me as a collector, 27. Thanks, Fat Dad. Yeah. 27 for Detective Comics. Thank you. For me as a collector, and I think this is important for all of you guys, we have to always understand our budget, or we will never enjoy the hobby to the extent of how we should. And I think that's very, very important. X11, I am not, because I love your questions. But let me continue on here. Would I love to have an Action Comics #1 or a Detective 27? What is Wonder Woman's? Or what's isn't there a DC? Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of year. I'm probably thinking of year. That's why I'm confusing. Anyways, I would love to have an Amazing Fantasy 15 or a Fantastic Four #1, but I got to be realistic. Now, when I say I'm being realistic, it doesn't mean that I might not never own those. I mean, look, I can own a 0.5 and be happy with it. And even those in high grade, some of these books are hitting, you know, 1 point whatever, 2 point whatever $million. You know, maybe one day I can just own a 0.5. I mean, hey, you never know. But I still want to be practical. And I think this is a good technique for all of you as well. especially if you're a collector of, say, runs or characters, right? So for me, as a Spider-Man fan, boy, I mean, like, as a collector of runs and a collector of Spider-Man, I want to own it all. I want to own all of it. I want to own Amazing Fantasy 15, Spider-Man #1, all of it. But I got to be practical and I got to set my limits. So one thing that you could do, like for me as a collector, I wanted to make sure that I owned every Amazing Spider-Man comic from 100 and up, because that's attainable to the standard collector, to the average collector, right? I mean, you got a huge key in there, like Amazing Spider-Man 129, 300's another one. So you got some mountains to climb just doing that. Then maybe you could take it down to 50 and up. Obviously, 50 is like through the roof right now. But now that I personally own, I do own every Amazing Spider-Man from 99 to the end of the run. And I'm very limited on my Silver Age books. I finally got my first single digit. I got Amazing Spider-Man #8. I have a few of the teens, and it's going to be a challenge for me. But the way I look at it, you just hit one at a time, and maybe one day, I could still get Amazing Spider-Man 1, even if it's in a 0.5. And that, to me, is attainable. So even looking at Spider-Man, I'm not even focused on Amazing Fantasy 15. There's no way I can be. There's no way I could sit here and tell myself that I can focus any of my energy on Amazing Fantasy 15. Because if I'm here and I'm years down the line and I'm 50, 55, 60 years old, and I spent, 20, 25 years trying to focus so much energy on owning that, it's going to weigh me down. And I'm not going to enjoy the hobby as much as I should be. So that's my tip, my rule, I think, for all collectors out there. 100 and up. That's Fat Dad's goal. Awesome. Yep. Pedro, what's going on? Comic Journey, I don't care about. I do care about the grades. I'm not going to lie. Like, the higher the grade, the better. But I don't care, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would rather have it than not to have it, especially anything under 100. Like, especially anything under 50. I don't care. If it's in my budget, I'm buying it. Straight up. And that's where I draw the line. If I could get a higher grade, like, I would rather. And I recently made a purchase that I'm going to show off soon on my channel. I look at the situation. I said, well, I could take up all of my money that I have available that I've saved up to spend on comic books. I could take all of this money and buy one higher grade Silver Age Spider-Man. Or I could spend half of it and get a low grade and get one low grade and hopefully get another low grade when the time comes with the other half of the money. I would do that any day of the week, hands down. Common News Network. That's what's up. Super Awesome Geek Show. All right. So, yeah, let me actually answer Peter's question here now. And it's funny because Super Awesome Geek Show just brought up Fantastic Four. He brought up Fantastic Four 48. I do own the Galactus trilogy and Silver Surfer trilogy. I really believe that one of my mega grails right now, and I call it a mega grail because it has to be, it's Fantastic 452. Fantastic 452 is a book I still don't own, first appearance of Black Panther. And because I am a fan of the character in the comics, and I'm a huge fan of Chadwick, and I'm a huge fan of what he did in the MCU with the character, it is my dream to own that book one day. So that is definitely one. Another one that I have to say, and again, I'm kind of bending the rules to my own. What can I do as a collector? The second one I'd have to throw on there, a Golden Age Captain America book from the original Captain America books. I'm not ever thinking I'm going to own number 1 or even number 2, number 3, but just any Golden Age Captain America book. I consider those mega grails in my humble opinion. Like the whole run, I don't care. Because that's important to me in terms of the history, the era, and me not owning many Golden Age books. And the Golden Age books that I do own more than not are, like your Dell and those type. I have a lot of Porky Pig and Disney books that they don't hold a ton of value, even though they're still cool. These books from the 1940s and 50s, et cetera, et cetera. So, but those are the two I'm gonna say right now. Outside of anything Spider-Man is a Golden Age Cat book and Fantastic Four 52. So, yeah, there it is. Brandon, I'm working on Howling Commando. Sweet. Peter is here. Awesome. All right, we are going to move on. So big shout out, Raising Elm, aka Justin, had a great question that I think is another amazing topic of discussion to discuss. And it's about focusing on how do we get our data for values. I've done videos about this. I talk about this in any like top 10 books to invest in or whatever videos that I do. I try to give you guys knowledge in a platform for you to take notes on how to gauge value, how to research the data, and find, crunch that data to have the most appropriate fair market values calculated that you can have. So we're going to get into it. We're going to read Justin's comment and question here. Justin says, sites like Cover Price and GPA provide updated sales data on comic books, right? They do. Okay, so on Whatnot, for example, sellers don't always list what books are being sold. So, for example, item number 1, auction number 1, comic book, generic comic lot number 25, right? He goes on to state, with no indicator of what books are sold on the receipt for sales like this, how can we truly rely on the sales data from sites like Cover Price and GPA? Same concept could also apply to comics sold at garage sales, flea markets. Should we look at the recorded sales data on these sites as merely a sample of what the overall market is doing for a particular book? The short answer is yes, and we're going to break that down. He goes on to say this: I believe there are too many variables at play to say the sales data on these sites are 100% accurate. Wow. Justin, I mean, I'm going to chop this part of this live stream up and upload it as its own video, because this is a Patreon suggestion video in and of itself. You are right in the questions that you are pondering here and that you propose, Justin. Basically, first and foremost, we have to understand that any database like Cover Price or Go Collect or even GPA for graded books, because they only do graded books, only pulls from a sample size because they only pull from certain sources. For example, Cover Price pulls from eBay Sold. They pull from My Comic Shop. I'm pretty sure they pull from Heritage and another auction site. And I know that GPA pulls from Heritage. I do believe they probably pull most. I think most of GPA stuff comes from auction sites. I do believe they pull from eBay as well. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. So, Dan, what's up, Dan? Oh, and this actually brings up a really interesting point we're going to talk about too, and this goes to Bronze Age's comment right here. But we'll talk about this in a minute, about Whatnot getting away from that. So the first thing to remember is that these databases are not crunching data from the entire market. So yes, you have to know that when you go into gauging your values. You have to. Also, another thing that you need to be aware of is that sometimes the data pulled into these databases is false. And I'm not saying they're falsifying data, but sometimes the algorithms grab things that shouldn't be there. For an example, there was some book that was hot a while back that I was looking at. And I mean, like the average fair market value, just say, was like around $200. But then there was one sale that was like $480. Turns out that they pulled in a sale from eBay that was of a 2-book lot of that book. So that's why I say you can't focus on outliers or just last high sale or et cetera, because sometimes that data can be misleading because this stuff is being pulled in by algorithms, and sometimes things slip through the algorithms that shouldn't be there, that skew the data. All right. Keep that in mind as well. So you may then ask yourself, well, how do I know what a real fair market value is? Well, at this point in time, we never will, technically, because I don't think we will ever live in a world where LCS sales are calculated. And once upon a time, LCS sales is where the majority of comics were bought. That might be changing now, especially after COVID, but we still have a large amount. Obviously, there's still thousands of comic shops out there, brick and mortars, and thousands and thousands and thousands of books are being sold every day. Who's calculating, who's tallying those values? Nobody. Whatnot. Nobody's telling you Whatnot. I do hope that one day Whatnot, there could be an algorithm that does grab from Whatnot at least the sales that specify, like at least for maybe graded books. And if they are putting the listing in as, you know, Amazing Spider-Man 300 CGC 9.6 or something like that, right? That would be great if Whatnot partnered with Cover Price or GPA to allow this to happen, and for all of this data to be pulled into their databases. But you have to understand that this is probably the most important thing, folks. These fair market values should be understood to simply be fair market values in their specific marketplace. And what marketplace is that? It's either online or auction houses. Online, meaning not even live sales. I'm not even talking about live sales. Whatnot, IG live sales, YouTube live sales, Facebook live sales. No, I mean online is in primarily eBay and my comic shop and some of the online auction houses as well. Very small sample size, right? So I made videos before talking about, well, if you're in a different marketplace, the fair market value of that book might change. If you go and buy comic books from a garage sale, the fair market value may be different. Even if you're buying from an LCS, fair market value could be different. And I've talked about this before. Now, with big key books, it's a little different. This is more for your run-of-the-mill, run fillers, value books. Sometimes you're willing to pay more on eBay because you don't have to leave your house. You know, you don't got to get off your couch. You don't got to spend gas money driving to the LCS. That's why standard back issues at an LCS often, more often than not, need to have competitive prices. I'm not even going to call them fair market values because fair market value can change from day to day. It fluctuates. It's a rolling average. It's an estimate. and it depends on the marketplace. So you may be willing to pay $6 plus $5 shipping for some random, Thor book from the early 80s that isn't a key. But maybe when you go to an LCS, you don't want to pay $6 for that book. You took the time to drive, to spend gas money, to get dressed up, to shower, go drive 20 minutes to the shop. You want to pay $4 for that book. And that might be the competitive price that the LCS needs to charge to incentivize you getting up, getting your bummy butt dressed, get some shoes on and a clean shirt on, hop in your car and drive down to that shop. So there's a difference here between fair market value and competitive pricing. Make sense? Oh, yeah. See, there's a comic collector geek shows and just sometimes there are issues. I will say this, though, too. Sometimes you can actually find better deals on big keys online in an auction on eBay or even in a live claim sale. So sometimes big keys are priced at a premium at the local LCS. So that's why, guys, fair market value is never an exact science. It fluctuates from day to day, week to week, venue to venue, marketplace to marketplace. That's why you always have to be patient. You have to do your due diligence, and you got to know what you are expecting from a sale of that book and the money that you're going to be putting down for that book. And like I always say, no matter the marketplace, the venue, whatever, don't ever hesitate to negotiate, right? Let's see. I think Pocan Joe comic review might have something interesting to say here. An auction can't be a point of data. It's not setting a market value because it's a matter of personal competition. You can't data point a person's emotions, at least no economic model. Okay, let's break this down. Is it Pocan Joe? I really like what you have to say here. I'm going to kind of play a little bit of devil's advocate, though. At heart, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, and I talk about this a lot, but I'm going to break this down. I'll play a little devil's advocate. Auctions absolutely can set the market value because they do. They can because they do. And do you know why they do? Because the market, you and I, consumers on the market, you know what we do? You know what we do? And I'm sure Pocan Joe, I'm sure you know this. You know what we do? We see a TV show or we see a trailer, somebody shows up, or we get a trailer or we get a casting and announcement, right? And we go ham. We go crazy. A couple people get into an auction and get into a bidding war with what are you saying here? Emotion. It's a matter of personal competition and that emotion, right? And what does that emotion do? Well, it drives this book 3 times the value of what it sold for the day before. But what do the other hundreds of consumers do? Well, they look at that auction and what it sold for, and you know what they tell themselves? Well, shoot, I better get my hands on one, and I better be willing to pay that much too. And then what does it do? It sets the market because now you have everyone listing their books, putting them at buy it nows. They're looking at that FOMO'd out auction sale, and now they're pricing. Say the book was selling for $120 the day before, and now it's selling for $350. Well, now all these flippers or sellers or dealers are saying, "Oh, I got 5 of these. I'm gonna post them up on eBay. It's gotten hot. I'm gonna send them for $340. Buy it now," and people are paying it. And then what does it do? It sets a new fair market value. So auctions can and do set market value, but like you say here, at least no economic model. And yes, that's how it should be. And that's what I keep trying to tell people. We aren't allowing supply to catch up with demand we don't allow the fair market value to organically meet that economic model of supply and demand. And that's why essentially Pocan Joe is right in his assessment to say that we as the market, we as consumers, should not be allowing a simple auction to dictate what we are willing to pay. They could be guidelines, they are indicators of a type of market, but we allow it to influence us so much that it shouldn't. Here's an example of a proper economic model. This book that was selling for $120. I mean, look, even buy it nows can. No economic model is perfect, and there's always going to be emotion involved. But say this book was selling for 120, and you get everyone flooding the market with buy it now books now that it got hot because of a trailer or cameo appearance in an MCU show or something. And everyone's setting their buy it nows for around $500, and nobody's buying it. What are they going to have to start doing? They're going to have to start lowering their prices until it gets to a market equilibrium, to where then the consumers are willing to pay that fair market value. But Pocan Joe, great comment there. Absolutely. All right, let's see what some other folks are saying. Joe, what's going on, Joe? I just wake up and go hunting. Screw the clean shirt. I'm in the same clothes I wore yesterday, trying to take the stress away, smoking on some hey. Who knows that song? I had to get away from comic books due to, I think, dollar books. Bearded Collector, I'm not gonna read the rest of that comment because I could be honest, and I'm not trying to shame you, Bearded. I'm sure I have some similar feelings that you do because I think FOMO's out of control, but I'm not going to sit here and call people idiots. And look, man, it is valid. It is valid for some of these books that had very little value before to have some value now. It is. That's how comic books work sometimes intrinsically, but I think I understand some of what you're trying to say, because it is crazy that these books that nobody cared about before, all of a sudden, they were $2, $3 books. Now people are just paying $60 because, Bad Bunny was supposedly cast in a movie that might not ever happen. And that book has already tumbled off the face of the earth. So Bearded, I think I get what you're trying to say. I'm just not going to take that tone. I'm not going to sit here and call people names, but, there's valid frustration and perplexity when we look at certain books that sell and we're like, what are you guys doing, right? So I get it. If you are drinking, or I want a Thundercats 2 because I needed to finish my complete run, I bid it up to 150 raw. Does not change the market. Are you asking or stating? It changes the market value if the market, again, same thing, if the consumers look at that and start basing their purchasing decisions on that one outlier, right? But again, to your point, that's why I tell people, don't focus on outliers. Don't focus on outliers. No, Pocan, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. And it's kind of like the on paper, how it works on paper. And I get that. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, we are the market as consumers, right? We allow things to influence us. No market is a perfect economic model in real life because we are humans and we have emotions. And like the example that you just said, I don't know what that Thundercats 2 is selling for raw, but I mean, if it's only like a $25 book raw and you just wanted it so bad and you bid it up to 150, or maybe the other person bidding was just drunk, right? And they bid it up to 150, and everybody looks at it the next day and says, oh, 150, that one book was selling for 150. I don't care what it was selling for yesterday. I need to pay 160 for it. That happens. And it drives the market. It's a shame, right? And I don't recommend it. That's why I'm on the same page as you, because we got to set aside our emotions and start thinking logically and looking at the data appropriately. All right, we're going to move on though, folks. That was a great topic of discussion here. What else do we got? Okay, we got two here that are fun. We're going to talk about cheaters, guys. Now, you might be wondering, what are cheaters? But first, we have a quick music question. Another one from Justin. He asks, random question related to music. If you listen to Eminem, which song of his did you hear first that drew you in? Which song or album of his is your favorite? His song, Kim, is what got me listening to him and Not Afraid. Dude, that song still speaks to me to this day. Okay. Let me say it like this. I agree with you. Not Afraid is probably one of my favorite Eminem songs, if not my favorite. Absolutely. I love music with emotion and that has a message. And that song does it on all levels, right? I've never been a big Eminem fan. I never bought one of his albums. Never. I appreciate him. I think he's one of the greatest wordsmiths to ever rap. I'm not going to put him in my top 5. I don't even know if I would put him in my top 10. I think he's one of the greatest battle rappers, and I think he's one of the greatest wordsmiths. I just never gotten into his music like that to where I'm going to go buy his albums and live by it. That's just me. I think a lot of times I'm not really feeling his beats on some of the stuff, album wise. I wasn't ever a fan of the Slim Shady, Hotter Than a Set of Twin Babies. Although it's crafty and it's creative and it was different. Nobody was doing what he was doing. But Larry, what's going on? But yeah, I mean, I love the 8 Mile film. I give him. I thought he should have done more acting after that. I like that soundtrack. One of my favorite verses he ever did was on the song with Drake and Lil Wayne. And who else was on that song? Was Kanye on that song? If you ain't seen nothing at all, then it might have been done for me. Y'all know that song? M's verse on that, like he killed it. And one thing about M, if he's featured on a song, like he'll murder the competition. I think he gets that for Tupac. And that's another thing why I respect M so much, because that he was influenced by Tupac and he's got mad respect for him. And he's a Machiavelli trained soldier, for those that know that term. He's a student of Pac, right? But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So sorry if that kind of, wasn't what you guys expected. I know one thing is a rapper myself, in my past life, because of the skin tone, it's always like, oh, the next Eminem, or, oh, do you like Eminem? It's like, just because of the color of my skin, you got to pin me up to like the Great White Hope. And I think there's a catch-22 with Eminem and his skin color. For one, this dude is an amazing lyricist and rapper, and his skin color has nothing to do with it. But on one end, he gets hated on it for being a white boy doing it, right? But on the flip side, the industry wants to promote him as the great white hype and, make him like the Elvis of rap. And it's such a conundrum. And I feel bad for him having to be in that situation. But I love him. He's definitely a great. I would maybe put him in top 15. I've never bought one of his albums, and I just haven't been such a huge fan like that. But he's an amazing artist, and he's a legend in his own right. I will leave it at that. I appreciate that, P. Kill. Eyewitness. Which dude? I think there's a lot of dudes in NY right now that, yeah. All right, we're going to move on. Cheaters! I'm going to trick you guys, but you might have fun with this. How many baseball fans in the house tonight? We got some more comic book stuff to get to. But even if you guys aren't huge baseball fans, if you guys like controversy, I think you're going to like this. And comment given by none other than Tony here, man. I hope Tony's still here hanging out. Tony, are you here? Are you here, Tony? I want to remind everyone, guys, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, I would be greatly, greatly humbled if you guys can do so. I make content quite often. Like I said, it used to be every single day. I'm trying to take a couple of days off during the week since I just added a second job. Well, a third job. I went over some giveaways for my channel members earlier in the show, and I will be doing a 12,000. We just recently hit 12,000 subscribers. I'm going to be doing a giveaway for anybody that is a subscriber in the near future. But, Tony, are you still here? Where's Tony? I want to make sure Tony's here. I'm going to move on to another comic book question before we talk about cheaters. All right. X11, are you here still? I think you're here still. We're going to get to one of yours. Oh, shoot. Where did it go? There it is. Okay, let's see. X11. Let's get X11 has a handful of questions here. I want to get to a comic book one. X11 says, I guess he doesn't actually have a comic book question. All right, X11, we're going to get back to you as well. We're going to get a comic book question from Verified. Name an overrated artist. Yes! I love this. I might get some hate, but we're going to get into this. Overrated comic book artists. Verified says, mine always causes a little backlash. I think Jim Lee has some books that stand out, but the majority of it is average at best. I just don't see what other people see. Verified, I love the question. First, to your overrated artist, Jim Lee. I disagree 100%. Jim Lee, to me, even outside of McFarlane, is the epitome of the late 80s and early 90s. McFarlane is on a whole other level. So I'm not saying that Jim Lee is above. McFarlane's on a whole other level. I call him the modern day Jack Kirby. But Jim Lee, I'm an artist myself. And I look to McFarlane and Lee when I was a kid and copy from. I love Jim Lee's style. I don't think that what he does is overrated, because even though I really think if you look at what was going on in that time and what came after, I think a lot of people took from Jim Lee. And what they took from him was his quick ability to detail. Jim Lee would detail in a way that was very unique because it was extremely quick, but it was still very detailed. Like if you go to pre-Jim Lee especially in the 80s, because I think we started seeing a good amount of lazy stuff in the 80s, but you can even go back before, because we know that the art was a lot more simplistic. in the 70s and back into the 60s with some artists, like, Ditko. But you had a lot of different elements that made it good for what it was then. I think Jim Lee is similar to a George Perez in terms of the detail and the depth of the shade, but yet was much more on kind of, I don't want to say like an anime style, but because it wasn't like the big eyes and disproportionate, body figures and all that. It was still more realism, but there was kind of an anime style in there to it. And I think he really revolutionized that moving forward. You can even say Todd did that as well, but I think Todd did it in still a very unique and in his own way. Kevin Eastman. That's an argument to have. Oh, Chris, thank you. Yeah. I know. Yeah. I know I got to show more of my art. I haven't been doing much art lately, but I'm going to get into my overrated artist still, but I just wanted to pick apart the Jim Lee thing. So, but hey, look, to each his own, to each their own, because art is subjective. Art is subjective. I absolutely love Jim Lee. For me, it goes John Romita Sr., Todd McFarlane, and Jim Lee. My top three. And then Sal Buscema. Top four. But the most underrated artist. Why are you always fighting over something? We're not fighting over anything. We're having a good time here. The most overrated artist ever to exist. Ever. J. Scott Campbell. J. Scott Campbell is the most overrated artist ever. Ever. I might have people wanting to fight me for saying this. Now, let me break it down. Let me break this down, guys. It is getting intense in here. Bagley is grossly overrated. Fat Dad's like, you need to chill. Chris Olsen loves J. Scott Campbell. Look, here's my thing with J. Scott Campbell, guys. This is my thing. Every artist has their style. Every artist. This isn't just true for J. Scott Campbell, but J. Scott Campbell draws the same woman every single time he draws a woman. J. Scott Campbell draws the same woman every single time. Well, like I was just saying, you can argue, well, everyone has their own style. Art Germ's another one that has a very, very similar style when he draws his women, right? You could say many of them are modeled by the same model. But I will say this about Art Germ. First off, I think he's just a better artist. But secondly, at least he puts some effort to where we know that that's Wonder Woman and that's Supergirl. And I don't just mean the costume. At least he puts some effort. J. Scott Campbell literally changes costumes and just decides to dye the hair a different color. And you know what pisses me off about J. Scott Campbell? Not every woman has the same tiny, round, red Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer nose. like, look. I understand that, like, you are into that. That's your, like, go-to real life, like, you know, your type of woman. Like, you want, like, a woman that has got that, you know, Michael Jackson, you know, plastic surgery done. I get it. But damn, can you, like, you know, when you're drawing Mary Jane and Black Cat, can you just give one of them a slightly different shaped nose? And can one not be red unless they were all out like snorting blow, or maybe like in 20-degree weather in New York on a January night? Like, come on, man. Come on. I gotta see what you guys are saying. Hey, D Will, he's milking it because we keep buying it. And hey, you ain't wrong. Jordan. Tony's here. Oh, Tony, we're gonna get into your questions since I know you're here now. You know what, Comic Journey? I don't think Momoko's overrated. I think what it is that it's so different. It's so different, and she gets hyped up because of it. Some of her stuff I don't like at all, but a lot of it I think is really, really amazing because I really like that style. But I just think because it was so different, she got just like thrown out there. Fabian. Yeah, no, we could all talk loud and don't people in people in bars talk loud all the time and they're having a blast, and unless they're getting in some bar brawls, right? Little noses. Yep. You mean all women aren't supposed to look the same? Absolutely, Comic Journey. Absolutely not, that is. Yeah, don't get me wrong, guys. You know, I appreciate J. Scott Campbell. I do. I like his Black Cat. I hate his Mary Jane. Isn't that funny? I like his Black Cat, but I hate his Mary Jane. I hate it. Joe, I now see why the guy asked, why are you fighting? No, we're good, man. We're good. Yes. Oh, here's the thing. When J. Scott Campbell isn't doing the same woman, it's solid, man. It's solid stuff. I love the ASM #1. I think he did. What was it for 2014? That cover of Spider-Man. I love J. Scott, dude. I do. I don't hate him, but I can't stand what he does with his women. Like, you got to switch it up, my guy. Come on now. Come on. Artist to artist. Switch it up. Yeah, Shadow Rap for sure, for sure. No, Bronze Age. Am I saying Black Cat and MJ look different? No, well, no, I think his style actually works decently well for the Black Cat character. It doesn't work at all for MJ. They look exactly the same other than the color of their hair and the costume or the clothes that they're wearing. All right, guys. We're going to get into this. Tony, you're here, right? You ready for this, Tony? Are you ready for this? Tony, you, sir, asked the question of the last 100, actually, of the last 30 years, Tony, 30, 40 years. The question of the last 40 years. Are you still here? He's here. He's here. You guys thought I was fighting before. Tony brought up fighting words. Fighting words. Guys, are you guys going to be mad if I step aside for 30 seconds? Don't go anywhere. I'm telling you. You're not going to want to miss this. Actually, before I go, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. Check this out, guys. check this out. Don't go anywhere. Oh, hold on. Hey, shout out to Simon. Hold on. Watch this. Okay. Here we go. This is what we're going to do. Tony, telling you, this is going to be the show of my lifetime. All right. I'm putting this up on the board. Got people left. Guys, I'm just going to grab something real quick. Don't leave. Come on. We're going to have the fight of a lifetime here. We're going to go at it. 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Right back. Go. I'm gone. Wasn't even 30. I'm back. Wasn't even 30 seconds. All right, guys. All right. So that's all crooked. By the way, I just want to say something real quick. Somebody that had a big stick up their butt last night decided that they wanted to go on Instagram and create a mockery about how I need to buy hats that fit me. Guys, I have a huge, huge head, and I wear 7 5/8. They fit me. The only thing is I don't like bend the brim all the way down, so it seems like they're kind of big. But believe me, these hats, if I go any smaller, my head would be freaking, my skull would be getting crushed. Bronze Age. Moonchild's here. What's going on? All right, guys. Are you ready for this? Here we go. Tony T. Stirring up the controversy. All right, Chris. Got a sports question for you. So, Aaron Judge of my New York Yankees just broke the American League single season home run record for another Yankee great, Roger Maris. 62 home runs. And to me, the best part of it is that Aaron did it clean and with no controversy. But to me, I am sure many others, he should be, but to me, I am sure, and sure many others, he should be the major league single season home run king. Everyone else who hit more home runs than he did it with performance enhancing drugs, and that is why they will probably never enter the Hall of Fame. How do you feel about this? Do you think their record should stand? Do you think MLB should erase their records and make Aaron Judge the true home run king for a single season? Go Yankees. Tony. First off, big shout out to Aaron Judge. The guy's amazing. What a great year for baseball. Aaron Judge hitting 62 home runs. Albert Pujols, getting to 700. Oh, man, I was watching both of them, following it. It was amazing. But there's a couple of layers here that we need to discuss, Tony. First off, there are players that have admitted in court and testified in court to shooting up steroids. And I'm not just talking about PEDs, like the actual, what's the name? Is it not metabolical steroids, but what's the proper name for the steroids that you actually shoot up? We know that Mark McGwire shot up steroids. I don't know if somebody refreshed my memory if Sammy Sosa admitted to it. I don't remember. I do believe, to the public eye, we have to look at those records and say, unfortunately, there's some tarnish there. Now, do they not count? Nope, they will always count. We're going to get to Barry Bonds separately, guys. And focusing on this, though, the reason why whether you think that these people did it dirty or not, the records or those numbers are still there simply because Major League Baseball allowed it. They allowed it. And I'm not condoning it. It sucks, but they allowed it. Because guess what? They probably were hitting those home runs off of pitchers that were juicing, like Roger Clemens, at least, it's alleged, right? That Roger Clemens used PEDs or shot up, whatever. But so unfortunately, that stain is there because MLB and the commissioner and everyone in the front office, commissioner's office, said, hey, we're making money. We're going to keep this up and we're not going to care about it until it came back to bite them in the ass. Okay. Here's another reason though, why they should stand. Tony, and I really want you to listen. We're not even talking about bonds yet, but I want you to hear me out on this. It is a fact that PEDs were being used for many generations before in professional sports, especially baseball. I do believe, was it Hank Aaron who admitted to using cocaine before he would play? Many players would use some type of methamphetamine, which absolutely is a performance enhancer. Why do you think they prescribe Adderall for people that need to concentrate? So what can an amphetamine do for somebody at the plate? It can allow them better focus, better control, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe it doesn't extend their muscle mass and all that, but it is a PED, performance enhancing drug. Who's to say that Roger Maris, they didn't drug test back then at all. People were doing coke, amphetamines. Who the hell knows what they were doing? We can't sit here and say that Roger Maris hit 61 home runs without doing any type of performance enhancing drugs. I'm not accusing him of it, but I'm just saying this is the problem when we get into the argument of erasing numbers. We can't. But we also can't sit on a high horse and say that they did it, they shouldn't count, these people did it clean, at least the people before. We don't know. We don't know. We simply don't know. Now, let's get into Barry Bonds in this whole and look at PEDs under a microscope. First and foremost, when everyone says PEDs, what do we automatically think? We think of the actual steroid that you shoot up, right? That we know Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco were doing, and I do believe, again, don't quote me on this, that we know that Sammy Sosa was using. They were actually shooting up steroids. PEDs aren't just steroids. I'm going to come back to that. Barry Bonds, and I'm telling you guys, it ain't just because I'm a Giants fan. I did this just to, entertain you guys and just to be funny. Went and got this hat. I'm going to switch the hat now just to, I'm not saying this biasly. I promise. I mean, look, my favorite player of all time is Ken Griffey Jr., and he's on the Mariners, and I'm not a Mariners fan. Barry Bonds was never found guilty in a court of law for using steroids or any PED. The only thing Barry Bonds was found guilty for was for the perjury charge, the obstruction charge. It was BS. Whether you believe he used PEDs or not, that obstruction charge was BS because they said he took too long to answer a question, or he didn't answer it in a way that they wanted him to. And that he fought it, went back to court, and they later dropped it. It was a bunch of BS. There was no proof that Barry Bonds ever used PEDs. He never, once the Major League Baseball started doing mandatory drug testing, he also never failed a drug test. Barry Bonds was never accused of or found guilty of in a court of law of using PEDs, and he never failed a drug test. Now, what he did admit to, whether or not he was knowledgeable at the time of what it was, or whether he wasn't, I'm in the middle. I'm not going to sit and say Barry's a Boy Scout and make excuses for him. He could have easily known. Like, for me, if somebody's rubbing something on me, or I have a trainer, I'm going to want to know, but that's just me because I'm a control freak. Hey, I'm sure a lot of these players, like, they listen to their trainers and they don't question it. I don't know. But what he did admit to was that for a short period of time, I forget the actual window, I think it was actually like one training season going into a year, his trainer used a topical cream that was later on the banned substance list. Keep in mind, when he was supposedly using it, there was no banned substance list. Right? Keep in mind this as well. What he was rubbing on his skin is available and was available to you and me over the counter. Basically, what it was similar to a pre-workout that we buy before we go to the gym. All it does is it relaxes your muscles. So when you go and work out, you can have a better workout to your muscles to help grow the muscle mass. This is what Barry Bonds admitted to using for a short period of time. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But remember, when he used it, there was no banned substance list. There was no drug testing. MLB wasn't saying you guys need to do this and don't need to do that. So, if people want to look at Barry Bonds with a question mark and say, I don't know, that's 100% fair. But if you want to sit and believe that he did more than that, well, you have to admit that it's only your belief and suspicion. People who sit here and say Barry Bonds used steroids, that's a false statement because there is no proof and there never will be. Do I know what Barry Bonds did? No. Was I there? Is he my friend? Was I helping him? Nope. Did I live with them? Did I have secret cameras spying on Barry Bonds? Absolutely not. We cannot sit here and say that Barry Bonds used steroids. Period. We cannot say that Barry Bonds cheated. We can assume if we want to, and that's okay. Barry Bonds, though, was the poster boy for this argument because of how he and his father treated the media. The people that vote into the Hall of Fame are the same people that Barry Bonds didn't want to talk to in the press conference after a game. But do you guys know what the media did to Bobby Bonds, Barry Bonds' father? I would recommend going and research what they did to his family. Straight paparazzi BS. If I was Barry, and look, you got to understand, I don't want to get too much into race, but being black in America and being a black figurehead, go do your own research on that. I'm not going to talk about it. I am not mad at Barry Bonds for not wanting to open up to the media specifically because of his family history. The last thing I'll say about this is this. Everyone argues that Barry Bonds buffed up. His head shrunk and all this stuff. Look at every single player that is a play. Well, I don't want to say every single because people are built different, right? Look at Albert Pujols. Look at Albert Pujols in his first couple of years. He looked like very similar to what Barry Bonds looked on the Pirates for his first couple of years. Look at what Albert Pujols looked like over the last 10 years in his late 30s and early 40s. Because I do believe, what isn't he like, what, 41 right now? Or I don't know exactly how old he is. Look at him. So, Albert Pujols, did he ever fail a test? Is his 702 or 3 home runs legit? I don't know. Is Aaron Judge legit? How do we know that he's not using? Now, they do the random drug testing. I don't know. So, Tony, love you, but and again, guys, you guys know me. I'm all about principle. I talk about it with comic books all the time. I talk about it with the community all the time. I hate that Barry Bonds, as a fan, as a Giants fan and as a Bonds fan, I hate that there's even any controversy around him. And I feel that Barry did put himself in that position for the most part. You know, whether Barry knew or not about the cream, he should have known. A grown man in a professional sport, he should have known. He should have never, if he was clean and doing it right, he should have never put himself in that position, and I fault him for that. Ken Griffey Jr. never put himself in that position. And if Griffey never got hurt, I believe Griffey would have hit 800 home runs, hands down. So, do I fault Barry for part of the controversy? I do. But I do believe that they blackballed him as well, and they made him the poster child of it. And I'm not condoning any of this, but Tony, all I recommend is this. I am a baseball fan. Like, I'm not somebody that gets on that high horse of like having to act childish to other teams. Like, when Clayton Kershaw was pitching his perfect game, for that one game, I was a Dodger fan because I wanted to see Clayton Kershaw make history. Because I love the game more than anything. And yes, it hurts me that the steroids era ever existed. Yes, it hurts me that Barry Bonds, one of my favorite players, got caught up in the middle of that. I will never know for sure if he ever did anything more than what he has been honest about. I'll never know. But one thing that I do know is I can't accuse him of such ever because I don't have the evidence. And what I do know is that while we can't condone these things, I do think for the sake of ourselves and how we enjoy the game, we just got to understand that there's been ugliness tainting the game of baseball for decades. I mean, there was racism involved. It was segregated. They didn't let black baseball players play. You know, there was dirty players like Ty Cobb cutting people up, sending people to the hospital with his metal cleats. We had people using amphetamines and cocaine in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and then to the 80s and 90s in the steroids era. So I think we really need to stop hyper focusing on the steroids era and just understand that it was ugly. It had been ugly. And that's just the history. It's just part of the history. So that's what I got for you, Tony. I don't know if where you stand or how you're taking my opinion on it, but that's how it is. I don't think. Lastly, I'll say this. It's not up to these writers. First off, I don't believe these writers should be the people letting people in the Hall of Fame. I think it's a joke. I think it's an absolute joke that the writers are the people that let, we already know the writers they're like the Academy, the Academy for movies. It's all a popularity contest. They favor big markets. It's a joke. It's a freaking joke. Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. Shoeless Joe Jackson should be in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. Period. Roger Clemens should be in the Hall of Fame. Sammy Sosa shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I just don't think. I'm not just saying that because we know he used, I guess. Mark McGwire, I don't even know Mark McGuire was, I don't know. That's questionable. But still, he could be in the Hall of Fame, and on his plaque it could say, got caught using steroids, had blasted amazing home runs and broke records, but he did it using steroids. It's part of baseball history. Tony, man. Everyone here is like, are we talking about comic books? All right, guys, you all are awesome. It has been fun. We're not done yet. We got a comment from Larry Shadow Rat. We're getting back to comics, guys. What size bags and boards would you suggest for thicker comics, square bound comics, and trade paperbacks? Shadow Rat. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate you. We can keep talking about this in the future. It's always a fun debate. But I love Aaron Judge, man. I hope he signs with the Giants next year. And right now I'm rooting for the Braves in the playoffs in the NL. Braves or Mets? I want Braves or Mets to make it to the World Series. Shadow Rat. I recently did a video a couple months back at answering your question, but I'll do it brief here. For bags and boards for thicker comics, it depends how thick. For some thick comics, that are maybe just annuals, you can actually use, if you're using poly bags, you can actually use BCW bags that are called current thick. Current thick. They are a 7-inch width bag. They're slightly wider than your standard current bags. The standard current bags are 6 7/8 inch, right? So, if it's just a slightly thicker book, those current thick BCW bags work very well. And the type of board would be called a regular board from BCW. And that's a 6 7/8 inch board. There's a 1/8 inch difference between the board and the bag. Okay. Now, if you're going with square bounds, I recommend going with BCW, I believe, calls them the regular bag. And then Ultra Pro calls them silver/regular. They, I believe, are a 7 and don't quote me. They're a 7 1/4. They're a 7 1/4 inch bag. And you can use a Silver Age board, which is 7. I think some Silver Age boards are 7 1/8. But you can also get some possibly custom cut, depending on who you're buying them from. That's my recommendation. Trade paperbacks, again, just depending on the thickness. The Silver Age should work for, your standard, like $14.99 to $19.99 trades. Your standard, 4 to 6 book collections. So I hope that helps. But I do have a video that I released a couple months back that hopefully you can find. All right, X11, we're getting into some questions here from you. I like them thick. I'm with you, Bronze Age. Are they? The Mets are getting crushed right now by the Padres? Hey, man, those Padres, man. Yeah, silver size BCW, Peter. That's a little too big for me. Little too much wiggle room. I definitely like using the thick because it keeps a little bit of border on the sides of them, but it's not too wide. But I know a lot of people just use the silver for everything. X11 asks, imagine if fantasy football and Battle of the Bands had a baby. A league where you build your own music groups from real performers. I want to put ZZ Top and Carlos Santana together. I would do Tori Amos and Kate Bush. That would be sick. Or how about I would do Tools band without Maynard with Kurt Cobain. Or no, yep. That's what I would do. All right, next question from X11. Paint me a picture of what your life looks like in 2030, 8 years from now. Where are you at? What are you doing? Where have you evolved into what degree? X11, wow. Where do I see myself? Paint a picture of me in 2030. The sad thing about that, X11, I was having a private conversation with you recently about this. I am, and I'm be honest with everyone watching, because this is kind of like nothing but the truth, the truth and nothing but the truth here. I'm in a bit of a midlife crisis right now, everyone. And, it's my kids are teenagers. My oldest is turning 18 next year and wants to get out of the house. And I went to school and I graduated college late in life. And here I am, and I don't even know my career path, and at my age, it's hard. It's hard to sit here and not, I still, I've raised my kids in poverty with all, and I count my blessings. I have a lot, and I have especially when it comes to this hobby, I've been able to have a lot of this as well, so I'm not without. So I don't want this to be a sap story, but I lived in poverty for many years of my life, including when I had kids, and raising them up and struggling, trying to go to school and get a degree to better my life for my kids. And then it was hard graduating I graduated with 3 degrees. I graduated cum laude with a 3.59 GPA. That's, cum laude. It's like honors. It's like high honors from a university. And I couldn't get a job. And I ended up taking a job where I was making $14 an hour and only working a few hours a day. Here I am with, I'm in my 30s with 3 degrees, graduated cum laude, a business degree as well. And I couldn't find a job. So I'm here right now, and because of the pandemic, I've been able to find a calling in journos, comics, and my YouTube. But it's tough because it's still, this is a job for me. And I say that and I don't hide it, but it's tough to keep revenue afloat, and I've been hit with some unfortunate circumstances with YouTube. I won't get too much into that, but just the unneeded drama, certain individuals, that may have their own YouTubes and that want to, keep my name in their mouth and talk bad on me and mine and tell lies about me and act like immature children or like they're out here thugging, internet, social media thugging. And it's affected the algorithms because I've lost hundreds of subscribers from people putting my name in their mouth. If people unsubscribe from me on my own accord, that's one thing. And what does that do? It hurts the algorithms. I may still do a stream talking about this just to I don't know, put it out there. But my viewership is way down. I hardly get new subscribers anymore. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. But the only reason is because YouTube isn't putting my stuff out there like they used to, because all of my analytics are up. When people see my video on their feed, however many times they're clicking it, that's up. The percentage is up. But they're just not putting it out there as much. YouTube is unsubscribing subscribers from my channel without them knowing. And I don't know what that's about. You can't talk to anybody at YouTube. I don't want to get too much into that. Like I said, we may do a stream talking about that. It's tough. So I recently took on a second job at my school. So I work basically 3 jobs, with Journos Comics being even almost more than one job. I'm an educator, right? I work part-time as an educator in the AM. And then in the afternoon, I went back to my sports director job, but I'm an assistant. So I only work 2 hours a day in that position. So I do my AM as an educator, and then I work 2 hours in the afternoon as an assistant sports director, Monday through Friday. So I'm almost working a full day now doing that. And then I come home and I pump out videos almost every day. And I've been selling comics on Whatnot primarily. And I got to get ready for those shows twice a month. So that's almost like another job in and of itself. So I'm almost working 4 jobs, and I hardly give myself a day off. And I'm still not, to be quite honest, making enough money to support my family and to, be where I want to be. I used my 401k from my previous jobs to put myself through school. It's tough. And we're going back to X11's question, where do I see myself? If you would have asked me 10 years ago, it would have been on top of the world with my music. Because 10 years ago, I was on top of the world with my music. Until it came to an abrupt halt for personal reasons. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I was still a student in school, Sac State University, and I would have said, I want to be running my own business. I actually started my own media and marketing business while I was in school. I made a little money off it, did a little bit here and there with it, but it wasn't much at all. And if you would have asked me a year ago, I would be sitting here saying, I want to have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I still want to be doing that, and possibly owning my own LCS, or even if it's not a brick and mortar LCS, I want Journos Comics to be a brand name. It's not just a YouTube channel. I want to sell comics. I want to provide services. I even thought about being like, when you look at the lines of like PR or even, A&R for artists. Because just my business mind and even being some type of middleman, like how would the comic book industry evolve over the next 8-10 over this decade? Whether it comes to digital media or the back end side marketing, bringing in new market bases. I could be, an account manager or a third party executive that manages data for marketing campaigns. An independent marketing company that shows how we can actually market comic books to grow the hobby over the next decade. Like, these are all things that I've thought about, that I've sat with. It's like, I got, again, not to sound egotistical, but I got so much knowledge in my pocket that I'm just wanting to do something with. But it's been a year. It's been a lot. And I don't know. And I'm going to be real with you guys. Like, I've said on my channel, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2015. I also have a autoimmune disease. And there's a lot of, and I suffer from anxiety because of the trauma and all this stuff. And as you change and you get older in life and you experience things, everything shapes you, right? So I stopped working in my last career because my wife was in a near fatal car accident. And I had to quit my job. I was a manager of Sprint. I managed a Sprint store. Even back then, I was working 6 days a week, 60 hours a week, and they weren't even paying me a manager's salary. I was making $11 an hour with commission that actually there was a class action lawsuit against this general manager. I won't get into that. But that was doing people dirty. So I had to quit my job because my wife was basically disabled for like almost 10 months. She had 2 surgeries, 6 months apart. And I took that. That's when I decided to go back to school. I said, you know what? Because we filed for unemployment and cash aid. And yeah, we had to live off welfare. That's life, right? Food stamps, welfare, all of the above. I had to do what I had to do to take care of my wife and my family. But what did I do? I said, I'm going to make the best of bad situations. I signed up for college. And this is coming for somebody that I don't even know how I graduated high school, facing death or a jail cell. And I remember back then, my mom signed me up for a couple of little junior college classes, and I effed around and didn't do anything. I'm doing my music. I went back to school, and my wife signed up too. And at first, we took the same classes because we took the general courses, math, history, English, and I would push her in her wheelchair. We would go to the college, and then we started the community college, and we got bog fee waivers because we were low income, thankfully. So there's resources out there, guys. I would push her in her wheelchair to class. We'd sit there. We boom, boom, boom. And we did that for 2 semesters. Then when she got better, I did my thing. She did her thing. She started working in daycare as a daycare provider. And I started working myself doing the marketing and media. And I kept going to school. I wrote essays. I applied for, what do you call them? Not grants, but, oh my goodness. I need some help in the comments. What do you call those things, guys? I blank on words like this. Scholarships. I wrote essays and poems for scholarships, and I won a couple scholarships, and I pushed my way through, and transferred over to Sac State University, where I pursued a business management and administration degree with a minor in sociology. And I graduated, and I couldn't get a freaking job at all. If you ask me now, I look back, it's very hard for me because of my trauma and the anxieties and where I'm at in my life. And maybe I'm being selfish, but it's very hard for me to sit and want to go back to a 9 to 5. I never worked a 9 to 5 because I was always in management, in retail sales and management. So I never had weekends. I don't want to do that. And what worries me about that is my stress about my autoimmune disease and the PTSD and all that. And that's probably me just having anxiety and my worry and not pushing myself, right? But there is a silver lining here, and I just don't know what it is. Because part of the anxiety and trauma is like when you get overwhelmed and you start processing so much, you become debilitated. I don't know how many of you feel like that out there, where you have all these goals and ambitions, but it's so much that you end up not knowing where to even start. And instead of just taking one thing at a time, you sit and you don't do anything because it debilitates you, all the anxiety and the stress. And then you weigh yourself down. You wear yourself down because you're so stressed out and exhausted now. How many of you Raising Elm. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Right? Look at that. Brandon. When I got out of the Army, nobody would hire me. The best job I could get was $9 an hour at a golf course doing the maintenance. Yeah. And probably for perspective, what maybe, I don't know how many years that was. Maybe $9 was, for inflation, maybe that would be a couple dollars more today. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even in California, like minimum wage here is $15 now. That's not nothing for how much it costs out here. Nothing. Yep, and that's right, Brandon. Metro, one thing at a time, but it's tough, So I sit here and I know, man, I went down a whole history with you guys, but I hope it was worth it. And X11, I come back to your question again. I have the biggest classroom right now. My first year in the classroom was last year. Before that, I worked with specifically with kindergartens that were like ESL, English as a second language, or they were on IEPs, or they had speech and language development issues, right? Last year is when I first actually went into a classroom. I was with first graders. This year I have the largest classroom ever. And I had a lot of anxiety going into it. But now that I'm in there, I love it, man. I love it. And time flies and I'm in there and I'm teaching and it's so fulfilling. So I've sat here and debated and fought with myself if I really want to be in education. I don't know. But I'll tell you what. If I am a full-time teacher 8 years from now, I'll be happy, I think. And I think that's what matters. And whether, and my goal was high school English teacher, but I don't know. Who knows? Working with these little ones is crazy. But I really still, I will say this, guys. I'm giving myself to the end of the school year. I've already cut back a little bit with the YouTube. I'm giving myself days off. I never did that before. I went, 2.5 years with no days off on this channel, man. 7 days a week. 2.5 years. I'm giving myself days off now. I'm going until the end of the school year next summer. And if my channel hasn't done something different, if I haven't worked through the YouTube algorithms and the blackballing, I'm not stopping with this because Journos is always going to be here, but I might have to reevaluate and scale back a bit more and do it differently. I might have to do that. But I really hope that I could keep doing this the way that I am for at least a good few more years before I go get into education full time. Or who knows, maybe at one point I'll just say, screw it. And I start applying for jobs again. And I actually get a job in the field that I studied in. Maybe I could go get an account manager job, making $65,000 a year for a solid, company or something like that. Who knows? But I would love to do this for a few more years. And in 8 years, either be full on in an educator position, helping kids, or I can really build this Journos brand and be way more than YouTube. You guys hate him all you want, but Comic Tom is one that's really like Comic Tom isn't just a YouTube channel, he has a brand. So I want to be able to, and not to say that I'm going to model and do everything that he's doing. I don't think I'll ever have like mystery boxes like that or do that type of thing, but whatever it is, however, I will love to continue to work in this industry as Journos Comics doing something. So that was an extremely long-winded answer. Jonathan, good for you for doing what you had to do for you and yours. Have you thought about going for a master's? We need comic books and classrooms for the kids. Hey, I'll tell you what, and this is my experience. So you guys don't understand how much kids read comic books these days. Whether they're reading a trade paperback of it or a floppy like that, that's besides the point. Kids are still reading comics, but yes, Jonathan, we need more of it. I have thought about going to get my master's, but I'm gonna tell you this: like, my kids are still home. I can't. I simply can't afford it. There's no way I could go pursue a master's right now. I mean, when you do like the grants, you know, you get 5 years of grants. Like mine is almost done. So I wouldn't have much, even if we qualified for it, I wouldn't have many much grant money there left. And I just don't do it. So what I would, and quite honestly, like I was basically a single father. And I don't want to go too much into it. I don't want to put her on blast. But, you know, my wife being a recovering addict, you know, she's 5 years clean. So that's amazing. And I'm so proud of her. And she's still working through a lot. I mean, we all are, right? If we're not working on ourselves, we're not living. But because of that, I was in so much a way a single parent raising 2 kids, you know, trying to work, you know, and earn money and go to school full time. And I kept the 4.0 for 2.5 years. I kept the 4.0 for 2.5 years until I got a B in calculus, advanced calculus, because my teacher was a Russian woman. My professor was a Russian woman, fresh from Russia. She had only been here for not even a year. And no offense to people from Russia, but she was like, we learned this in 2nd grade. You don't know this? You don't know this? We learned this in 2nd grade. That's the way that she taught. I'm like, whoa, like, dude, I didn't even learn algebra until I went to college. I flunked algebra in high school and they still graduated me. I don't know how. But she was very sweet. She understood there was a cultural disconnect. And I actually talked with her and the dean, and she actually ended up really, like, she would stay after class or set a time like, hey, Chris, when are you available? Come sit with me for an hour. Because I was getting an F. I was getting an F in that class, and I worked it all the way up to a B because she actually took the time to help. But I got 1 B, and I'm like, there goes my 4.0. But I was stressing myself out so much that I was in the hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack. But like my chest was hurting and I thought I was having a heart attack, but they took like a EKG and I was fine. It was just stress, like a massive panic attack. Crazy. And after I got my first B, I was like, okay, look, I don't give a damn anymore. I don't care about a 4.0. I barely graduated college. I need to graduate and not kill myself. So that's what I did. I think I ended up getting 1 more B and that was it. And I had a 3.59 GPA. So that was really awesome. First in my family to graduate from a university, from college. So, oh my goodness. Comic book 1962. What is going on? The struggle is Rogers became head custodian at an elementary school in my local district. 17 years. Had to work down on the docks, the fish markets, just to make it. Mike, that is awesome, man. And you put in that work. Well deserved. Well deserved. And, you know, I forget who said it, but, you know, where we look at, like, I remember the custodian at my my junior high school, because he was always talking and involving himself with the kids and making an impact with the kids. And it don't matter what walk of life you come from or what your job title is, you know, we put ourselves in environments to make a difference, especially if there's kids around, you know, teaching in the classroom, being out on the yard, it don't matter. Man, Pocan Joe. I am truly, truly humbled. Motivation ends in fruition. Discipline is the path to success. Please get a hat that fits. Just kidding, man. Good stuff. Joe, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you. Guys, you guys just being here and us hanging out. I mean, this is that's the support. You know what I'm saying? But thank you. Joe, I'm really beyond words. Are you on Instagram, Joe? Let me know. Let me know if you're on Instagram. And hit me up if you are. If not, send me an email, captainjournalcomics@gmail.com. Whoa. I got to look. This guy, Travis Langley, psychology professor I met, integrates comics and pop culture into his classes and curriculum. That is awesome. That is awesome. And that's the power of comics too, guys. And it's never too late, and it doesn't matter how much time that absolutely very, very happy to hear that. Oh, Joe's got a channel. Okay, yeah, I'm going to check that out too if I haven't yet. Thank you, Comic Journey. Woo! All right, guys, we're not quite done just yet because we got a couple more from X11. And thank you guys for just being here and hanging out. And really, I think I think for me, it's good to talk about life sometimes. And I appreciate that from you guys. I really do. This is therapy for me. I hope it could be similar for you guys. It would be awesome if we were all hanging out in the same room, but we do what we can to make those connections, right? Will you be holding any charity auctions or events between now and the end of the year? Nothing that I'm aware of. I did try, you can make certain videos be like charity videos where people can donate. And I like to donate to St. Jude whenever I can. And I did one recently, a video that had a, donate to St. Jude on it. Nobody donated. I'm still learning on how that actually works. Actually, X11, there might be something coming up that I might want to actually talk with you about and get with you on regarding that something around those lines there. Yeah. Let's see. Did you ever go to grad night? Oh, did you ever go to the grad right across from UCD to pick up chicks in the late 90s? Or did you ever go to Davis Senior High for a Blue Devils game around 98? No, because I'm not from this area. Grew up in the Bay Area. So, born in Oakland, Richmond, San Pablo area. And I never came out to Davis. I never even came out to SAC much until my brother moved out to SAC when I was like 17. Then I would come out and hang out with him. He actually, he lived in Davis first. That's right. He moved to Davis first when I was 17. That was around, but that was in 98. That was after 98 because it was after I graduated in the 2000s. And then he moved to SAC. So, yeah, I wasn't in this area back then. All right, let's see. I think we got one more question for the evening, guys. Once again, I want to give a big shout out to all my Patreon supporters for, being there every month, asking these awesome questions, allowing me to share it with the public. I still plan on doing some private things for you guys, Patrons, but the majority of you voted. You like doing these things public. It's awesome to really allow the public to hear your guys' thoughts and questions as well. Again, big shout out to my YouTube channel members too. You guys are awesome as well. X11 asks one last question. If you could only have one, which Guardian class? Talking about some Destiny here. Hunter here. Love the Titan a bit less. Hate the Warlock. Liz is a Warlock all day. I think the Warlock would be my least favorite too. I do believe in my main game, I don't know. I was a woman character. I know that much. I was the woman character. Can a woman be, is there a hunter and a Titan woman? I don't remember. It quite honestly, it's been a good few years since I actually played Destiny, but I loved it. It was one of my favorite modern games. So, talk about your experience. Yeah, that's my experience. Not playing it in a few years. I got to get on. It's so hard for me to find the time, guys. So hard for me to find the time. I want to so bad. I even, I have a TV in here and I have my retro games, but I never play. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about sometimes I'm just so overwhelmed and it's hard to just be in the moment. It's hard to put everything aside and just be in the moment. And that's why I'm so behind on my comic book reading, so behind on even letting myself have some downtime where I can sit and play video games. Maybe I need some Adderall. No, that's not for me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Woo, guys. This was awesome. I really appreciate having to be able to do a Friday Night Live and incorporate all of my Patreon questions. These awesome questions. We still got the cheaters up here from the cheaters category. Good old Tony there bringing the baseball conversation in here. So thank you, Tony, for that. Guys, you guys are awesome. Again, thank you all so much. Joe, I want to talk to you for sure. X11, Raising Elm, Peter, Tony, Verified, everyone that asked the questions this month, Shadow Rap. Thank you guys so much to all of my other Patreon members. Thank you guys to everyone that just came and hung out. Spider Dude, Comic Journey, Comic Book, Fat Dad. You guys are absolutely awesome. Tomorrow, I'm going to take the day off from everything. I'm going to go fishing with my kids. I might even meet up with my dad. Actually, real quick story here. My dad is a big fisherman. Like that was his life. And my dad actually suffers from, I believe it's called PSP. It's a neurological disease that attacks, your motor functioning. And he can hardly walk much anymore. And it's even hard for him to talk. And so he can't fish anymore. But my mom was hitting me up saying they want to meet us, get some bait. And so hopefully we can go and hang out. And that would be awesome for him just to hang out and go fishing. And I'm saying that because I want you all to realize and remember, whether you guys are sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, whatever, make that time, make those memories, because that's what matters. So that's why I'm taking a break. I sat here and made good memories with you guys tonight. Tomorrow, it's all about the fam. Sunday, Comic Book Canon. My co-host, Jeff. Special co-host, Danny, Curl, Comics. I hope to see all of you guys there. That link is in the description below. Have a good and safe weekend, guys. Be good to yourselves. Be good to others. Be well. And until next time.